Good morning, dear students. We have come to the last part of this coordination compounds part 2 topic. Today we shall see chelates. Chelates, the word chela is the Latin word, means crab's claw. You know, when you put an object before the crab, it can hold this object from different directions. So these are the crab's claws, for example. So they can hold this object from different directions and tightly. Is it okay? So depending upon that, now we study these chelates. Now what are these chelates? Observe here. I will write the metal ion. I will write a complexing agent. This is complexing agent. And we get a compound like this. So ligand donates a pair of electrons to the central metal ion or metal ion to form a complex like that. So we call this as a complex. I will write now another compound like this, metal ion plus. There are two ligands. Ligands are joined with each other. We call this as chelating agent. So we call it chelating agent. So when this chelating agent combines with this metal ion, it forms a compound like this. Observe this complex I have written, which now I will call chelate it is. So in the second compound that I have written, when metal ion is combining with a chelating agent like this, it is forming a compound, a cyclic compound like this, in which the metal becomes the part of a heterocyclic ring. This is heterocyclic ring, and the metal is forming a part of that heterocyclic. Now these compounds, the second compounds, are called as chelates. Now let us define what are chelates. Chelates are nothing but the complexes. They are coordination compounds in which the ligands are joined to one another and to this metal atom and form a heterocyclic ring in which the metal atom becomes the part of it. So I will define once again what are chelates. So what are chelates? Chelates are nothing but the compounds, coordination compounds, in which the ligands are joined to one another and to the metal atom, and the metal atom becomes the part of a heterocyclic ring. So such compounds we call them as chelates. Now let me explain this with an example, right? How a chelate is formed. I will take cupric ion solution, that is Cu plus 2. It combines with glycine, NH2, CH2, COOH, an amino acid, glycine it is. So when it combines with the glycine, it forms now a chelate compound. Chelate. I will write that chelate here. Observe this. So your nitrogen is donating a pair of electrons and forms a coordinate bond. So this is copper glycinate. This is the chelate. So when you look at this chelate, now this Cu plus 2 ion, cupric ion, is held from two directions. Therefore, it becomes a highly stable compound. Is it right? So this is an example for the chelate, right? So Cu plus 2 ion combines with two molecules of this glycine to form a complex compound called as copper glycinate, which is nothing but a chelate. Is it okay? So what are chelates we studied and how it is formed, I have explained with one example. Similarly, you can also write nickel when it combines with dimethyl glyoxide. It forms a chelate called as nickel dimethyl glyoxide. Okay. So when you look at this compound, now what are the factors that influence the formation of these chelates? The factors that influence the formation of chelates. Now look at this chelate that I have written. If there are more number of chelating rings, now here there are two, is it right? If I write again 2 extra or 3 extra, it becomes more complicated chelate, and that metal ion is held from different directions. So it becomes a stable compound, which means more the number of chelate rings around this metal ion, more will be the stability. Is it okay? And another factor on which the formation of these chelates depends is the chelate rings must be either 5-membered or 6-membered rings and so on. You know very well, you have studied Bayer's theory in organic chemistry. There if you have studied the 3-membered rings and 4-membered rings have more strain, therefore they give rise to unstable compounds. So therefore, if in the chelate there are 5-membered rings and 6-membered rings, then such chelates will be highly stable. Followed what I said, if a chelate has got 5-membered rings or 6-membered rings and so on, the chelate becomes more stable. Then the other factor on which the formation of the chelate depends upon is when the chelating in the chelate, when the donor atoms are donating a pair of electrons, the metal atom must accept those lone pair of electrons to form a coordinate bond or to form a chelating complex. That means this must have high electronegativity. In other words, the metal atoms should have acidic nature. They must have more acidic nature. In other words, they must have less basic nature. So that is another factor on which the formation of the chelate depends. That is, the metal atoms should have high electronegativity. Then the another factor on which the formation of a complex, the chelate complex, is if there are double bonds. So here there is a double bond here there is a double bond. If this double bond is moving throughout the ring, that we say resonance. We say benzene is a highly stable compound because it is having what? Resonance. That double bond moves from place to place. So that's why we say benzene is a stable compound. So here also, in the chelate rings, if there are double bonds, if that double bonds are moving from place to place, if there is a resonance in the chelate, then that chelate is highly stable. So it also depends upon what? The resonance. But remember here, if the benzene is attached to this chelate, benzene interferes with the resonance of the chelate itself. Therefore, we should avoid that benzene ring in what? The chelate. Is it okay? So what I said, if there is a double bond in the chelate rings, if there is a resonance, that chelate will be stable. But if the benzene is attached to the chelate, then it interferes with the resonance of the chelate ring. So the another factor on which the formation of a chelate depends upon is, say for example, if I write here the bulkier groups, they are electron withdrawing groups. So if the electron withdrawing groups are there, they will affect the ligand capacity to donate the pair of electrons. Is it okay? So more precisely, let me write here it is. This is donating a pair of electrons. If I remove those two hydrogens by the methyl group, electron withdrawing group, they reduce the ability of this nitrogen which is donating a pair of electrons. So that should not happen. So the formation of a complex or chelating complex is affected by the presence of what? The electron withdrawing groups. So these are the various factors which influence the formation of a chelate. Okay. Now what are the applications of these chelates? What are the applications? What are the uses of this chelates? You know, you have studied the qualitative analysis, that is the detection of acid radicals and basic radicals. In the detection of basic radicals, you have used dimethyl glyoxime. You have used DMG, dimethyl glyoxime, to detect nickel in the third group. Is it okay what I am telling? In the third group analysis, nickel is precipitated by using DMG, dimethyl glyoxime, and it forms nickel dimethyl glyoxime. Nickel dimethyl glyoxime, which is a chelate, and it gives a scarlet red precipitate. Nickel dimethyl glyoxime precipitates as scarlet red PPT. What does it mean? So in qualitative analysis, we use this chelating technology. So dimethyl glyoxime combines with this nickel to form what? A precipitate, scarlet red precipitate, nickel dimethyl glyoxime, and hence we say nickel is present there, right? So in qualitative analysis, we use this chelating technology. Even in quantitative analysis also we can use. In the estimation of nickel, for example, in quantitative analysis, in gravimetric analysis, you can use once again DMG. It will precipitate nickel as what? Nickel dimethyl glyoxime. A voluminous precipitate is formed. More precipitate is formed, which can be filtered very easily, which can be dried very easily, and later on its weight can be taken easily, and hence we can calculate the amount of nickel present in the given solution. That means in gravimetric analysis also we can use this chelating technology. We can also use this in volumetric analysis. We have already said nickel forms what? Nickel dimethyl glyoxime, which is scarlet red precipitate. That means chelates, whenever they combine with the metals, they are forming the colored compounds. So these chelates are colored compounds. Hence, in volumetric analysis, we can use them as indicators, right? We can use them as indicators. For example, ferrine. Ferroin, right, which is deep red in color, triphenyl iron 2 complex ion, is called as ferroin, which is deep red in color. This can be used as a indicator in oxidation reduction titrations. at the end point, that color, that red color is removed. Is it okay? So this acts as what? An indicator in oxidation reduction reactions. So we can use this chelating technology in qualitative analysis, we can use this in quantitative analysis, and also we can use them as indicators in volumetric analysis. Then what are the other applications of this chelating compounds or chelates? The other application is our body. For example, if it is affected with lead poison, I repeat what I said. So when we eat non-vegetarian, for example fish, if lead is entering our body when we eat fish, that lead causes what? Lot of health hazards, health problems. It impacts the nervous system. So when we are poisoned with the lead, when we go to the doctors, they will inject what? EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, EDTA, right? So EDTA combines with the lead to form chelating complex that can be removed in the urine, etc. But the problem is, EDTA has got the effect on bones and teeth. That means it has got the decalcination effect. Therefore, EDTA is used in the form of salt, sodium, calcium, EDTA. So when it is used in the form of the salt, sodium, calcium, EDTA, then it combines with lead to form a chelating complex, and that is goes out in the either urine or the other form, right? Okay. So in the body, if our body is affected with the lead poison, etc., this chelating technology is used. Now, other application of this chelates is in solvent extraction. We can use this. In solvent extraction, what is this? See, hafnium and zirconium. So zirconium and hafnium, both of them forms chelates with thionyl trifluoroacetone. Now our aim is to separate these two from one another. If a solution is given having zirconium and hafnium, so we can separate this by using the chelating technology. We use the chelating agent as thionyl trifluoroacetone. So both the zirconium forms a chelate with this thionyl trifluoroacetone. Hafnium also combines with this thionyl trifluoroacetone to form chelate. Now, how to separate these two now? Now, to separate this, these two chelates have got different solubilities. They have got different solubilities. In benzene, for example, their distribution coefficient differs by a factor of 20, right? So, therefore, the zirconium thionyl trifluoroacetone is extracted with benzene. That means hafnium is insoluble, this is soluble. So zirconium thionyl trifluoroacetone is extracted with benzene, leaving behind the hafnium thionyl trifluoroacetone. That means we are separating these two ions in solvent extraction by using what? A technology, chelating technology. So these are the various uses or the applications of the chelating complexes. Dear students, so we have studied in this class what are chelates, I said. Is it okay? Then how they are formed, I have taken one example and showed it. And thirdly, you learned what are the factors that influence the formation of these chelates. And finally, we learned what are the applications of the chelating compounds. So fine. So this is all about the coordination compounds part 2 that is mentioned in your syllabus. We shall meet next class with a new topic. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you very much. May God bless you.